Hi everybody, welcome back to General Science, and today we're going to be shifting gears, still in biology of course, but we're going to be talking about something different. We're going to kind of push away from genetics and DNA for a little bit and the cells and stuff, and we're going to start talking about bigger life forms than that. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to talk a little bit about how biologists classify animals. And so the first thing we're going to really talk about here is animal kingdoms and what those mean. Okay, so when scientists are classifying animals, they have kind of a hierarchy of things that they sort them into. So there's like a plan of where animals can slide and fit into this overall picture of life. And so at the top of this diagram that you can imagine, sort of like a pyramid, at the top we have life, and then below that we have domain, and then kingdom, and then phylum, class, order, family, genus, and then lastly the species. Okay, we're going to talk specifically about the kingdoms today, mostly because they're one of the more broader topics, and because this is just a general course, so we're going to stick with the basics here. Okay, now when I was growing up, okay, there were 5 animal kingdoms. So this was around 2006. But since then, science has changed its mind and has actually added 2 more kingdoms to the list than I grew up with, which was news to me. So I learned something new making this video, that there are now more kingdoms than I thought there were. So in 2015, the system was rechanged, reclassified, and there are now 7 kingdoms in in life. Okay, those 7 kingdoms are bacteria, Archaea, protozoa, Chromista, Plantae, Fungi, and Animalia. Okay, I'm going to talk about a little bit about what's in each of these groups and why they're classified that way. And then at the end, we'll kind of summarize, and then next episode we'll be moving on to what are we moving on to? Oops. We're moving on to food chains and habitats. So we're going to talk about how all these different. Sorry, I lost one of my little sticker guys. How all these things fit into actual places where they live and function and stuff like that. Hold on a second. Got to keep my notes organized. All right, here we go. So the first group that I talked about was bacteria. And bacteria are classified as biological cells that animals depend on. It turns out most animals have a symbiotic relationship with bacteria, including us. We play host to a whole lot of bacteria, actually, that doesn't just make you sick. There's bacteria in our stomachs that help us digest food. Bacteria is where a lot of potentially our organelles have come from. So the little parts of our cells, they originally came from bacteria. And so we owe a lot to bacteria, and they're a very large group of life, bacteria. The next group are archaea, and archaea are cells as well. However, these cells don't have nuclei. So these are cells without nuclei. So they're often figured as predating bacteria because they don't have nucleus. And they're often mutualists, so they work together with other archaea or bacteria or whatever to live and succeed. So they need help from others to do what they need to do. Not always, but generally that's what they do. The next group are protozoa, and these are like one-cell animals. So bacteria and archaea, they're not quite at that level, but protozoa are a little bit more of an advanced cell. They, you could think of like an amoeba as a protozoa. They eat their food, right? They absorb it, and they act like animals despite the fact that they're single cellular. So they have a lot of animal-like behavior. The next group are Chromista. Chromista are cells that are photosynthetic. So they get their energy from the sun, like plants do, but they're still single-celled organisms. So back when I was learning about the kingdoms, we just had archaea and bacteria, and the protozoa and chromistas were lumped together with those two. And so they've divided those up because they've realized that they're actually different. They shouldn't be lumped together in the same kingdom because they're fundamentally different. So in 2015, they changed that. That's the big change from when I was growing up. Most of the Chromista that you would think of are like algae or parameciums, basically anything that takes in sun for energy that's a single cell or a very small multicellular organism would be a Chromista. Now, the next three groups are the things that you're probably the most familiar with. There's Plantae, Fungi, and Animalia. Plantae are just anything that's basically a plant. So if you can think of a plant, it's in the Plantae group. They use photosynthesis to get energy. They have root systems. They grow in the ground or above the ground, vines or plants and stuff like that. They don't have to be necessarily in the ground to be successful. But plants are Plantae. That's a pretty easy one to figure out. The next group are fungi, and these guys are also eukaryotes mostly. They're not large. Not all of them are, but a lot of them are smaller, single cell, maybe some multicellular organisms, and they don't photosynthesize. They're decomposers, so they tear down organic matter and they use it for building themselves up. So they decompose things. That's what fungi are known for. They don't create more stuff. They decompose it. And then the final group is the group that we belong in. We're part of Kingdom Animalia, and we and all the other kind of animals that you could think of: dogs, cats, horses, zebras, giraffes, hippopotamuses, fish, reptiles, dinosaurs, all Animalia. So we're all part of the same kingdom, the animal kingdom, and we're multicellular eukaryotes, and there are roughly 7 million different species of us on the planet still, right? We're a very large group, and we've done a very good job adapting to our surroundings and being a part of the earth. We're a part of that group, as well as all sorts of different animals, right? Anything that you could think of in like a nursery rhyme or a children's story with an animal, it's part of Kingdom Animalia. We're not going to really get into all the other classifications like phylum and class and order and species until a little bit later when we talk about evolution. But know this, that there's nothing wrong with being a part of Kingdom Animalia. I think a lot of people look down on it. They're like, well, we can't be like them, because they think, it's like we're more intelligent, we have like these advances and everything. But that doesn't mean that we're not animals, right? We're still part of Kingdom Animalia, and we have a long heritage of fascinating animal brethren and cousins who have adapted to their environments and changed to be really successful in what they do, and we have as well. And there's nothing wrong with being related to these things. I'm very happy that our genetic cousins are chimpanzees. They're pretty smart animals. They do a lot of awesome things. And so moving forward, we'll talk about how all these different animals work together in ecosystems. And then after that, we'll talk about evolution. And then our biology section will be all wrapped up. So thanks for watching about kingdoms and animal classification. And we'll see you soon. Bye.